The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. Our guest today, returning to the show, is Jonathan Alboum. Jonathan is the Federal CTO at ServiceNow. Jonathan, welcome back.
Thank you. I really appreciate the chance to come on the show again.
Well, Jonathan, the reason why we asked you to come back on, having been on the show almost a year to the day, was due to a lot of the exciting developments that have happened in the ServiceNow community within the public sector. But for those listening who maybe didn't catch your original interview, if you could just give us a very quick summary and overview of your background in technology, maybe where you started, a couple of roles you've held along the way, but most importantly, what you do today.
Sure. So, I've been very fortunate to work in different parts of the technology ecosystem. And while I spent most of my career serving the federal government, I've seen all of the different elements that make technology really valuable come into play in this role that I'm in today. But, where I started was, building systems and doing technology consulting after I graduated from college. And, that led to a project where I worked at the Food and Nutrition Service as a consultant. That's an agency in the Department of Agriculture. And I really got to know that agency well. And I worked on the food stamp program, now called SNAP, for different systems. And, that led to an opportunity for me to join the government. And I became the deputy CIO at that agency and eventually its chief information officer. And, that began an 11-year career as a federal employee in different IT executive positions. I spent a little time at the General Services Administration and then had an amazing opportunity to come back to USDA. And I worked directly for the Secretary of Agriculture on some strategic initiatives for him. And he then appointed me to be the Chief Information Officer for USDA. And I got to see not just the Food and Nutrition Service mission, but all of the missions come together and see how, a department like agriculture serves really everybody in the United States. It's one of those agencies that touches everybody's life, even if you don't necessarily see it or feel it on a day-to-day. It's there providing services that really make our experiences is better. So I got to see all of that as a federal employee. And then when it was my time to leave government and I found my way to ServiceNow, I'm in this role as the Chief Technology Officer for the federal team. I'm able to use my experience as a CIO, as a practitioner, first building systems and then, managing an IT organization, and really thinking about how we talk about ServiceNow, how we position the things that we do to other leaders in IT like I was, and other folks who are managing programs and trying to ensure that their programs operate very successfully and serve people very efficiently. And, I help our teams really think strategically about how ServiceNow can be a key part of their transformations. And I'm out there with the teams talking about it with our customers in public forums. I work with a lot of our partners to ensure that the ServiceNow story and our approach is very well understood, so they can be out there, helping us ensure that people realize that ServiceNow can do a lot of things around transformation, not just in the IT space, but really transforming core programs and the way they serve people. So I've been very fortunate in my career to have different kinds of jobs in this technology ecosystem, and I've been very proud to serve in and around the federal government for more than 20 years.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. Super helpful context, and obviously leads nicely into your journey to ServiceNow and the role that you've been in these past few years. Since coming on the show last year, there's been incredible growth and development for the ServiceNow platform within the federal government and the broader, public sector. You and I were speaking just yesterday about when people think about government, it's often put into one larger pot, but there's so many different components to that. And, technology and automation and AI is required in each of these areas. So since you've been on the show, you and your team have been working quite successfully with partners and the end agencies to help them use the ServiceNow platform to modernize their environment and benefit from what's available, particularly when we start to talk about Gen AI and its capabilities. So can you give us a bit of a summary of what the last 12 months have been like for you and your team? I know it's expanded considerably, and why the focus on all the different parts of what makes up the broader government is such a critical goal for you and your team.
That's a great segue, because it's really core to what we do as a company. Because we have to, as ServiceNow, we can't think about just, one little piece of a process. We can't think about, one system or one data field. We have to think comprehensively about how the work flows, how the data flows, how people interact with government in order to get the benefits they need, in order to get the information they need, in order to pay their taxes, in order to do just about anything that you require of government. There are always a lot of organizations involved. Rarely is it just a one-to-one. And many times government agencies are serving other government agencies, or they're collaborating as part of that process. And ServiceNow is so perfectly positioned to be the connective tissue across those complicated workflows that might traverse a federal agency into state agencies, into local agencies, county offices, what have you, where somebody might be actually served and might get a benefit, might apply for a program. And all of that, those interactions, that data very often flows back up to the federal government, so the federal government can do fraud detection or program integrity activities, or understand the program's impact. So it's not just one entity of government that has a role in a program. It's many. And your point, JP, I thought was right on, that when people interact with government, they are not taking the time to understand, I'm interacting with a federal agency, I'm interacting with a state agency, it's a county office. They're interacting with the government. And we shouldn't ask them to understand the bureaucracy. We shouldn't ask them to know who's who. We should expect that when they need something, they can go and get it and move on and be successful in their lives. And we want to take a look at these large, complicated programs, these complicated workflows that really traverse many people and many offices, many levels of government, and think about, how do we use ServiceNow as the thing that makes that comprehensive process work more efficiently, work more effectively. Yeah. And there's a big story for us to tell, whether it's as part of SNAP, which I worked on when I was in government, or Social Security, or Medicaid, you name it. These are large, complicated programs that touch a lot of people, and ServiceNow can be core to the transformation of those programs. And I believe that's what the public is really asking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hear it all the time as being part of the ServiceNow ecosystem, being a partner ourselves. Much of our day-to-day conversations are with the partners or these end agencies who are looking to get the benefit of ServiceNow because they want to bring their technology stack into today so they can benefit of what's next, which is the Gen AI possibilities that exist within the ServiceNow platform. And for many state, local governments, many of the smaller agencies, they need to first get their back office and house to a point where they can actually benefit from Gen AI. And that's one of the biggest allures to ServiceNow. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you're hearing from these CIOs, CTOs, and why there's such a growing demand for the ServiceNow platform to allow them to get this benefit?
Yeah, that's another great question. And part of what I think ServiceNow's positioning around generative AI is, and AI is not new to the ServiceNow platform. We've had document intelligence. We've had other AI capabilities, built into ServiceNow, virtual agents, other things for a long time. But the generative AI piece is new, and you're seeing it, across a lot of different providers. But what makes, I think, ServiceNow's approach different is that we've taken the Gen AI capabilities that people are creating, these large language models that they're using, and we built these industry-specific, domain-specific, smaller large language models. I call it my personal phrase is a SLIM, right? It's about ServiceNow data. It's about ServiceNow workflows. It's based on things that we know really well. So we have, real provenance around the data, and there's transparency and, traceability for how decisions get made. And we're applying these technologies in the context of ServiceNow workflows. So we're doing things in ServiceNow using Gen AI to summarize a case, to create resolution notes, to create a knowledge article, to enhance our virtual agent chat with not something that's pre-programmed, but something that is, an organic kind of conversation. We're casting all of this as Now Assist. We're making it easier for people to go faster in ServiceNow. There's so many great demos that are out there where you can, take a picture of a workflow, something you draw on a board, and upload that to ServiceNow, and ServiceNow can translate that into the actual workflow. So you go from whiteboarding session to something that is working in ServiceNow where a human can look at it and approve it or adjust it. So we're cutting out time. We're making it very easy for people to use ServiceNow to get the results that they need and to get them very fast. So I look at ServiceNow's approach to Gen AI as a very simple entree into generative AI for people that might be a little bit trepidatious about this new kind of technology and how it could impact their end-to-end IT operations. So it's a way to get your feet wet with Gen AI and get a lot of value out of it very quickly, because you're using it in the context of a platform that you've already been successful with. It's not a new product you're introducing. You're experiencing, you're bringing in new capabilities that you haven't had before, but that's the history of ServiceNow. Every release has lots of new capabilities, and the Xanadu release that's coming soon is going to be the largest Gen AI release ever, we believe. So more and more of these capabilities will be available for customers that want to use them, but it's not like they're buying a new product. It's not like it's a new company. It's not like it's a new thing that is untested. These things are coming with a platform that is already providing a lot of value in, government agencies all over the United States at all levels and really all over the world. So it's a less risky approach in my experience, especially, again, I'll just say it's our proprietary models, and we have provenance on the data. We can explain how decisions get made and how they work. And those kinds of things are really key. We demonstrate how we tested them. Those things are really key to federal agencies that have to, live in the context of the president's executive order on artificial intelligence. So, we're really making it a lot less complicated for federal agencies to adopt these technologies, in my opinion, which is why I think we're already seeing many agencies purchase Gen AI capabilities in ServiceNow or very seriously investigating it.
So, Jonathan, one of the things you and I were talking about earlier this week was the part of the reason why ServiceNow adoption has been so widespread and continues to be within the state, local government, right the way up to, top secret level security clearances is the level of security that ServiceNow has intrinsically built into the platform due to the requirements, and how that's going to, again, help you guys introduce Gen AI within the parameters that have been set at the presidential level. And I know there's been a lot of developments and change in the last 12 months. So could you maybe share some of your insight on that side of things?
Sure.
What are the updates and why it's so important going down the road?
It's at ServiceNow, we have I think a very proud history of investing in federal government requirements, over the last decade or really more, from, the early days of FISMA to, FedRAMP and beyond. So, it's been a few years now that we've had ServiceNow is operated in what we call the government community cloud. So federal agencies have access to a FedRAMP level high environment, DoD impact level 4 environment. that is a ServiceNow hosted cloud, and most agencies are there. And the generative AI capabilities that we've been talking about are all available in our FedRAMP High environment. And recently, we've in partnership with Microsoft, we've created an Impact Level 5 environment for DoD agencies. This environment runs in Azure at an even higher level of security, and we're working to bring those generative AI capabilities there. And what this really does is it gives agencies the assurance that ServiceNow has invested in the security requirements the federal government requires for the most sensitive data we have in the civilian government, and we have a place in the DoD for even more sensitive data, and we're going to continue, on this journey, I suspect. But it makes it very easy for agencies who might have security challenges in other systems to look at ServiceNow as a platform for application development or low-code application development capabilities, and those are enhanced with Gen AI as well. Let's take these applications that might not be secure and move them onto the ServiceNow platform. So it's running at a FedRAMP High level. It might be running at an Impact Level 5 level. And we've, taken out some of the risk in our environments by doing that. And you see more and more agencies thinking about ServiceNow as a platform for applications to migrate to from, technologies that might be old or harder to secure, or things that, have outlived their usefulness. And let's operate those on ServiceNow in these higher security environments. And, we have a strong and proud history of taking new requirements that we get through the cybersecurity executive order, through other, government regulations or requirements in the DoD, and incorporating them back into the platform. This company really cares about the security of its data, of the data of its customers, especially in the federal government setting. And we've put our money where our mouth is, and we invest in these capabilities, make them available to our customers, and the taxpayers really are the beneficiaries of these investments.
Yeah, for sure. And we're certainly see that investment pay dividend due to the high trust that all state, local, federal, defense, army, you name it, have all invested in the ServiceNow platform, because they believe it's the platform that will allow them to not only take their existing data systems and technologies to where we are today in 2024, but allow them to continue to invest and get the full benefit of Gen AI, with ServiceNow being the backbone of that. So tremendously exciting. That brings me on to then a component which I know is very important to you, which is the people behind all of this. You work with an incredible team, many of whom I know and have met, and you guys are the front line of taking this technology from idea and concept into production, and helping all of these federal agencies, whether it be the smallest local, people serving the communities, right the way up to, our armed forces protecting the country. So when you think of the opportunity that exists within ServiceNow public sector, particularly over the next 1, 2, 3 years, we spend a lot of time on our side educating the broader ServiceNow community of where they should continue to invest in their skill set, where the opportunity sits. I can't think of any space more exciting than the public sector for ServiceNow, given the impact on an area that you're passionate about, whether it be the environment, veterans, social security, or defense. So as somebody who sits at the top table with a 10,000-foot view, when you look at the next few years, what are you most excited about? And speaking to an audience of ServiceNow professionals, what can you tell them about why they should be looking at the public sector for continued career opportunity?
So when I think about how ServiceNow begins a journey in many agencies, it's often with the CIO. IT service management or IT operations and those things, having been a CIO, are critically important. They support strong cybersecurity. And, you can't forget about that, or you can't forget about the role ServiceNow might play with HR service delivery, or how we have the opportunity to help employees traverse the various HR systems. But to answer your question, I think the future really lies with the customer workflows, with our public sector digital services, and our low code capabilities, all of which are supercharged through generative AI. And when we were just talking about application development, we're going to get to the point where we can describe what an application should do, and ServiceNow can create that application. And so when I think about what we need from the partner community, how do we govern those kinds of application development activities? How do we govern the generative AI work in an agency and within ServiceNow? How do we look at all the different kinds of workflows and data in an agency, and how the data flows through the agency, which is really kind of a representation of the work, and think about how we can move those processes into the ServiceNow platform so people are operating in one place, and ServiceNow really is that system of action. And I think so much of that occurs in all the things you talked about, veterans, environment, so on and so forth. It's about how agencies serve their customers, and sometimes that customer is another government agency, sometimes it's a state agency, sometimes it's a person, it could be another country. There's a lot of different definitions of who that customer is, but ultimately it comes down to how customers experience the service that an agency is providing to them. And I talked about HR and employees. Employee experience is really important. In employee experience is really a customer experience if you're the internal service provider. So often it's about how we experience a service that we're provided. And if we're talking to ServiceNow partners and thinking about where to invest time and energy, I really believe understanding how ServiceNow is a integral piece in a customer service operation in a government agency is really important. How our creator workflows, again, supercharged by generative AI, can very quickly and efficiently create applications that make it easier for federal employees, state employees, local government employees to provide services to whoever they're serving. And how can we simplify our technology environments by taking these applications that have been built a long time ago, again, might be hard to secure, have the opportunity to let's look for the opportunity to move those capabilities onto ServiceNow, so people across the agency can benefit from the ServiceNow platform, not just somebody who's calling the service desk, not a CIO employee that is doing IT operations management or the HR official, but the programs that the government is built around. We don't have IT in federal agencies because we like to have IT. We have IT because government programs need it to operate. Your technology plan is your program delivery plan. And these things merged some time ago. I think we're all sort of waking up to that now. But if you don't have a strong infrastructure and a strong program and service delivery capability, you can't be successful in your role as a government program manager. You can't be comfortable that the technology, if you're not comfortable with the technology, you can't be comfortable that it's going to serve people well. And, we have examples over the past several years where the technology didn't work and an agency, failed to do part of its mission. And those things become very high profile examples of the need for strong infrastructures, strong platforms, strong capabilities, and employees at all levels of government, and in our partners with the right technology skill sets, the right ServiceNow skill sets to help everyone get a lot of value out of the investments they've already made in ServiceNow.
So Jonathan, look, we could spend the next 30 minutes more talking about this, but I want to give you the platform to finish on something that I know is particularly important. We were speaking a little bit earlier, and I asked you, look, what do you think is one of the most important parts that have led to the success and adoption of ServiceNow within the public sector? And you very emphatically said it's about trust. So I want you to tell us why that is such a standout answer for you, why it's been so critical, and why it will continue to make your success within the public sector go and go and go and go.
JP, I think that's a great way to conclude, because it's, I think, core to the way we think about, as ServiceNow employees, we think about ServiceNow. Bill McDermott, our CEO, will often say that trust is the ultimate human currency, and he'll go on to say, you earn trust in drops, but you'll lose it in buckets. And I think about those statements and apply them to my experience as a federal employee and as a CIO leader, and think about how, when we provided really good experiences to people that my IT organization served, they slowly started to trust us as a IT team to help them with their more complicated problems. And I think you can apply that, to government as a whole, as we focus on how we serve the customers of government serves its customers, and we provide those customers great experiences. Slowly but surely, those experiences build trust in agencies, and people that use those agencies, that rely on those agencies, that benefit from their programs, will begin to see those agencies in a more trusting light. And that's not just at the federal level. That applies through federal, state, and local, all levels of government. And I think trust in government, trust in institutions, we know is low, and this isn't the singular cure to increase trust, but it is, in my opinion, one of the very important elements that over time can rebuild trust through those little drops, through those little experiences. And, people have fear of generative AI. We see it, in the news, and we hear about it, and people are worried. Well, when they experience generative AI through a platform like ServiceNow, where it's making ServiceNow work more efficiently, where it's giving them, as the customer, the person being served by ServiceNow, the benefit faster, the answer faster, when you're the employee who's using ServiceNow and you get your work done faster. And, we can explain how these models work, and we can demonstrate that, we built them and tested them in a trusting way. People begin to trust this technology more. They begin to see value in it, and they have these, improved experiences. And we're doing things, as we talked about, from a security perspective that really protects their data, so they can trust that their data is safe. So we're building trust in terms of protecting their data. We're building trust and providing them great experience. We're building trust and being able to explain how this technology works, and we're offering trustworthy AI. So we're doing our part as ServiceNow, and I think the broader ServiceNow ecosystem, to build trust in the work that we do and the way agencies serve people. And again, it's not the only thing that we need to do to restore trust in government institutions, but it is a very important thing. And I'm very proud to have a role in that. I was proud to have a role in that when I worked in the government. I'm even prouder to have a role in that as I work at ServiceNow. And I would hope that everyone in this, wonderful ServiceNow ecosystem of thousands of partners and 25,000 employees, or whatever the exact number is. We all have pride in this, and together we can make things better for people. Ultimately, it always comes back to people and the way we serve people. And we think about ServiceNow as this platform for this comprehensive transformation of government. And it's a platform that people trust, and they get benefit from, and they get value from. So again, we're doing a really important task in a much broader environment. So we have, I think, we have a small but a very mighty and important role in the future of the country. And I'm, again, really proud to play a part in it.
Very well said. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I really appreciate you.
I'd love to come back again sometime too.
Yeah, oh, for sure. We can make this an annual thing, because there's been so much that have changed in the last year that I definitely wanted to have you on to talk about it, and it didn't disappoint. It's an exciting time, and for people who want to work not just within the ServiceNow community, but they want to work behind something that can have an impact, look no further. There's tremendous opportunity across the public sector with ServiceNow as a business, with partners, with end users. So long may it continue. So Jonathan, thanks again, and look forward to having you back on the show again, same time next year.
All right, talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.